You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 48, the Strongarm Assaults. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Steeven. And 1,000 miles over there to my right is another host, Mr. Ed Moore. Howdy, Ed.
Howdy.
How's things?
Well, they're going along. You know, it's first. Is this? Yeah, I guess this is the first actual day of spring. So, regardless of where in North America you live, so it is for you and me and Chris Parton.
Chris Parton has joined us live. That kind of reminds me, I think every once in a while we need to remind folks about this, folks who may only listen to the show and never watch us live or watch the videos. We do live stream as we're recording, and so throughout episodes you may hear Ed or I. Seems like we're talking to somebody who's not there, but we're responding to comments that are being left from our live, not studio audience.
Which, if you are listening live, it's on YouTube. Oh, no, wait, you already know that.
That's right. That's right. That's
That was
there was a really good episode. Well, most of the episodes of WKRP in Cincinnati was good. But do you remember the one with the tornado? That was it. The tornado? No, I can't remember if it was the tornado or if it was the episode with the bomb that blew up the transmitter. But regardless, something they couldn't transmit anymore. I'm pretty sure it was the bomb at the transmitter.
Okay.
But Bailey was on the phone in Jennifer's desk, and she's like, "No, ma'am, I'm sorry, but we're off the air." And then she goes, "How are we supposed to announce that we're off the air if we're off the air?" And I always enjoyed that line.
Yep. My two favorite episodes: the Thanksgiving turkey episode, of course, and the Johnny Fever getting drunk, becoming a better DJ episode.
His reaction time is faster the more drunk he gets. Yeah, that's a good episode.
Yeah,
those
are my
show.
two favorite episodes.
Yeah. Do you have any? Did you schedule or did you prepare any banter?
Well,
for today,
I did just want to bring up. I spend most of my social media time on Twitter, and I'm part of a group. I don't want to name the group in case anybody listens that is in the group. I don't want to directly insult them, but it is a group of fellow bloggers and podcasters of supposedly, ilk as we are, comic book based. And today, I had, and I wasn't necessarily in the best of moods today anyways, but reading through, I had enough of a particular theme of discussion. And I'll read what I tweeted, and it'll be pretty much self-explanatory.
Okay.
I tweeted, "I'll keep to my paper heroes, thanks. I watch movies and TVs, but my heart is in comics. Nothing is better than what I can do in my head in between the pages. John Byrne is my favorite Superman. Neil Adams is my favorite Batman. And George Perez is my favorite Wonder Woman. Now get off my lawn." So the expression of distaste for choices movie studios makes. Just to put it as fairly as I can, it was being thrown about rather unpopularly, and I was just like, "Dog, look, I just."
The one, whenever anybody starts complaining about, I don't know why they hired, cast this person in this role and blah, blah, blah. I always remind folks back in 88, 89, when it was announced that Michael Keaton was going to play Batman.
Who?
And everybody, Beetlejuice, the guy from Mr. Mom is going to be Batman.
Mr. Mom,
everybody was angry.
Yeah.
And ever since then, every time they cast a new person as Batman, most of the people say, "Oh, they'll never do as good as Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton is Batman." That's, and it's, you didn't think so back in 89.
Right. That's not what you said then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, anytime they cast anybody, because I was really Michael Keaton, really, because
it
it
is
didn't
at the
make any sense to
time,
me.
it was
Yeah.
a very interesting choice.
But
We
ever
have
since then, I try not to question it because most of the time it's good.
Well, first of all, we have come to you have to have come to acknowledge by this point that anything on TV or movies is a completely separate world than what you get on the paper.
Yes.
So trying to say any type of comparison with the actual source material just falls flat because by now it is blatantly obvious that is not what they do. Yeah. They use it maybe for a jumping off point, and that's all they use it for.
Yep.
Now, maybe the actors or actresses, they might spend more time than the screenwriters or the directors to get the character, because there's you have more flexibility, I think, with trying to nail a particular character from the comic book than you do the storyline and the setting and all the characters around and all that stuff. So, I will hand it to those actors or actresses that do take the time and, they're told, well, loosely the playwright based this on the X and X storyline that was in the X book, and they'll read it.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like, good on you.
Yep.
You're trying to do what comic book fans have been wanting, even though you won't be successful because the director and the material you have to work with aren't going to allow you to do it.
Yep.
But you're making that effort. So, okay.
Yeah,
good.
I always enjoy seeing pictures online of an actor or an actress in a comic book store buying a bunch of back issues of the character they're going to be playing in a couple of weeks. I always like that.
Yeah. Yeah, when after they get announced, they're caught at Midtown Comics and they have a big stack of trades. And it's like, okay, but that's part of your study. You've got the script in the car, and now here's your trades. It's like, okay.
The people who complain about stuff like that are probably the same people that complain anytime anything happens in the comic that they don't like. That's not that's not my Superman. Superman would never do that. And it's like, well, but he just did. So
he does now. So
he does now, right?
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Superman, the bit of banter I jotted down for tonight, for this episode, the Superman #1 hit the DC app today, so I was able to give it a read. Really enjoyed it.
I have talking about that for the 3rd episode, as a matter of fact.
All right, so let's.
I'll add to your conversation here in a couple.
Well, let me switch then to my 3rd episode banter that I have written down. Okay. Have you watched Ted Lasso?
No.
Oh, you should. It is so good. The 3rd season just launched. I've been going back and watching the old ones. It's a great show.
Is that the one about the dude that's a baseball coach?
He's a football coach from Kansas who has been hired to coach a soccer team in England.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah. Played by Jason Sudeikis, who is from Kansas.
All right.
So, and he's the character is just like super positive and super optimistic, and it can be a very just positive, fun, optimistic kind of show. Chris Parton loves Ted Lasso. It's just one of those shows, though, that, you watch the 1st episode and you're like, oh, that's pretty good. 2nd episode, that's good too. By the 4th episode, though, you realize how special the show is because they've introduced all the characters. They've kind of let you know, here's who these characters are. Doug S. also loves Ted Lasso. They let you know, here's who these characters are in kind of a one-dimensional way. Like, here's the boss, and she's cranky. Here's this guy, and he's stupid, and he's very egotistical. But as the show goes on, they just get deeper and deep. It's just great. It's just such a great show. The characters are very well thought out and very well performed. And
cool.
Yeah, Apple TV, dude. It's only like $4.99 a month or something.
Apple TV. I may already. I don't think we have that one. We might. I'll have to look and see.
That's what Ted Lasso's on. Now, here's what I would say. Wait till season 3 is done. Then just get a month of Apple TV and watch all 3 seasons.
And binge it all.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're only, I don't know, 10, 12 episodes a season, 30-minute long episodes.
Okay.
But they're really good.
Well, cool.
So we
add that
have
to my list.
Yeah. Good stuff. We have Doug S., we have Chris Parton, and we have Terry Moore joining us live.
All right.
My daughter just heated up a Totino's party pizza, and it smells so good.
I bet it does.
All
party
right.
Pizza. Sorry.
Right.
80s rap.
Did you have one of those local pizza places that stayed open later than the bars so that everybody would, or, when you were in your 20s and...
Well, I didn't really go to the bars to then check and see if the pizza places were open later. So I honestly can't say. We may have. I know. Let's see. No, I don't know. Come to think of it.
For those in the area listening, Pizza Shuttle, Lawrence, Kansas, still around.
Cool.
Cheap pizza. Stayed open past the when the bars would be open. So you'd go to a club, you'd watch a band, you'd go home, and 3 a.m, you'd get some Pizza Shuttle.
So that's what you did. You played the gig and then went and got pizza after the gig.
Yeah, sometimes we would. Sometimes we would go see a band. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually if we weren't playing, we were there to see a band.
So as a band, you went to see bands?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Not always as a group. But one of the band I was in for the longest time, the guitar player was my best friend growing up in high school. So yeah, we were always doing crap together. Okay. Are we bantered out for this episode?
I think we're good. Yep. More right. Next episode, guys. Hang in there.
Yes. Ed and I are not big fans of the small talk. So we schedule and plan out our banter. We're
trying to keep the energy up. We noticed some things over time, and we're trying to change things up a little bit to even the flow, as it were.
Yep. All right. So today we're looking at the Strongarm Assaults, which appeared in Action Comics number 28. This was written by Jerry Siegel with pencils and inks by Jack Burnley and letters by Betty Bentley.
His wife.
Very nice.
That was, I think Bentley is like her maiden name. Because
bye, Chris. Chris is leaving.
What? What? You just got here, dog?
I know. Oh, weak sauce is what that's called.
No doubt. That's what they say in Japan. Bentley Burnley or Burnley Bentley. I've seen her name, whichever order. But yeah, she turns out to be his wife. And she's going to be around for several of the art jobs that he does. She will be there with him.
And you had mentioned in one of the previous episodes that you had gotten some information from the Grand Comic Database. And
yes.
And so now as I put shows together, I'm using both Mike's Amazing World of Comics and the Grand Comics Database. And that's where Betty Bentley came from. That wasn't over on Mike's. So.
Oh, was it not? Okay. Yeah. They have it listed as Betty Burnley Bentley. And then the note down here says Jack Burnley's sister lettered all of his work, starting with this story through September 1942. So this is September 4th. So for the next 2 years.
Wow.
And here, an interesting reference to something I've never heard of. It says, see the comics with an exclamation point, volume 14, number 10, with articles by Betty Burnley, Jack Burnley, and reproducing black and white proofs of 2 images from Action Comics 28. So that must be a fanzine that was out at least when both of them were alive. I don't think there were too many fanzines in 1940 yet, but so this says volume 14. So if you take, say, each year as a volume, this thing, the comics, had been around for a little while. Yep. I did a Google search and I couldn't. I couldn't type it in the right way. I'm sure somebody else somewhere has talked about this, but that's such a generic name that even with the exclamation point, I didn't get anything. So
somebody will let us know. Hit us up on Twitter or on the forum.justanotherfanboy.com. The comics! Exclamation point.
Yep.
All right, let me tell you what happened in this story. This synopsis comes from Mike's Amazing World of Comics. Lois and Clark visit the circus to investigate a series of strong-arm robberies. The suspect The suspect involved resembles the circus strongman Herculo. They interview the circus owner, Mr. Jenkins, who explains that robberies have occurred in other cities when the circus was in town as well. Herculo claims no knowledge of the robberies as he tries to impress Lois by beating up Clark. Clark decides to place a report in the paper about Herculo as a challenge to Superman. He also marks some money, which is quickly stolen from him by the bandit. Later, Superman shows up at the circus. He and Herculo duel as a show for the audience. Jenkins is impressed and goes to tell the newspapers. He discovers that a clown is the robber because the money Clark marked stained his hands red. The clown attacks Jenkins, who is rescued by... Good Lord, what's wrong with me tonight? The clown attacks Jenkins, who rescue... It's the last sentence. I'm on the last sentence. The clown attacks Jenkins, who is rescued by Superman, while Herculo knocks out the clown. Ed, what'd you think?
There you go. I think the story was a little bit easier to read than perhaps that was.
Yeah, very much.
I don't know. And for some reason, there in the second paragraph, when you said the bandit, Eastbound and Down started playing in my head. It's sorry.
Yep. It's that generation.
It has nothing to do with the book, but you can ask my wife. 1 out of every 3 sentences will trigger a song lyric in my head, and I'll say something. I'll carry on with the rest of the song, and she's like, "Are you singing?" Yeah, sorry, I can't. I can't help it.
Just watch that bandit run.
Run. Yep. I enjoyed this. I liked the setting. I think I liked the everything is presenting as this is the bad guy, but then right at the end, it's like, oh no, this is the bad guy. You would not have been able to get that from anything in the story. So it was just a switch in the writing. So
Terry says you guys sing often.
She does it too. I usually leave her hanging. I'll just as she figures out what the song is and starts. That's usually as long as I want to sing it. So yeah. No,
if you've not listened to it, you should check out Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, their cover of Eastbound and Down.
Okay.
Like a punk rock supergroup that only does covers. They've released like 4 or 5 albums, and they are like a lot of 80s songs. They did a country album. It's their great stuff. I will say that I actually figured out who our criminal was.
Really?
Right away. And it's only because typically if somebody is writing a mystery and they want it to be an actual mystery, the general rule is you're introduced to the murderer or whoever in that first chapter.
Oh, okay.
And so you introduce the reader to a bunch of characters in that first chapter, but the rule is you have to introduce the bad guy, because if you don't, if by the end you find out the murderer is somebody that you haven't even met yet in the story, then the writer did not do their job. But there's a moment in this story where when we first meet the clown, it's basically where the strong man is kind of flexing his muscles and trying to impress Lois. Right. And at first Lois seems to be going for it, which just made me shake my head at Lois.
Yeah, Lois, yeah.
But she basically says, Superman's stronger than you. And he's, you bring him here and I'll show him. And suddenly this clown just pops into frame and he's like, and I'll referee the match. And I didn't figure it out then, but the next time I saw the clown, I'm like, oh, I bet the clown's the bad guy.
Okay. And
he's not doing anything else.
Right.
Yeah. He's not doing anything else in the story.
Okay.
Everybody else had something to do, basically, except for the clown. He's just there. So he had to be the bad guy. And I tried to use the same logic in the next story we'll talk about in the next episode, because it's a mystery as well. But I didn't figure that one out. I wasn't.
Yeah, I'm not that smart. Although, in my defense, I will say that mysteries are not the most of the types of literature that I've read. So
yeah,
I don't necessarily know the tropes and things for mysteries as well as I do, say, high fantasy, which is what I've predominantly read. Well, in comic books.
Yeah. And one of the other things I was thinking about, as far as I just the whole time I couldn't help but think it can't be Herculo, because
it's
as I don't want to say the writing at this time is bad, but it's not as sophisticated as the writing you get nowadays. So as not sophisticated as the writing was back then, for them to try to introduce a mystery in which the bad guy basically goes out in the costume that the strong guy goes in, and always seems to be robbing people in the town that the circus happens to be in. Herculo is stupid, but he's not that stupid.
Yeah, it's like, no, that's too obvious. It can't be.
Yeah.
So let's see, what else did I write here? Oh, and exactly how much did all the tickets for all the orphans cost? That Clark just did a pocket maneuver there, and he's like, "Oh, here, let me."
I think we established a while back that Clark's got some money.
I guess so. Yeah.
I know that there was the one story where he had to raise like $1 million, and there was another story where he made all that money, the black gold swindle.
Right.
He made a lot of money. So I'm assuming he just invested well when he got that big windfall. And so he's just been sitting back and enjoying the profits. Either that or, newspaper reporters get paid bank.
Back then, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I was a little disappointed in Lois when she first seems to be kind of into Herculo, because he's a big, mighty He-Man, and she's always telling Clark that he's not a He-Man.
I guess what we're doing is falling into some misfortunate characterizations there. I guess the dude is big and muscular and very alpha testosterone, and that's what that's what women like, the females. That's what they, it's like, okay. It was probably only a quarter to get in. Oh, into the, well, but still, I mean, there's I don't, let me get to there. They probably drew 10 or 15 little boys coming in, enough actually to take a whole section of the seating, whatever the seating arrangement is. There's enough to take an entire section, we're told. So
yeah, and he actually, Clark says,
sweet Kansas farm money, huh? I don't even know if I know what that is.
Let's see, where's the line? Yeah, Clark buys 100 tickets for those kids.
100. Oh, it said, okay.
Yeah.
So see, even back then, we're in 1940, that'd be $25 if it was a quarter a piece, which is, that's some change. I mean.
But Doug's right. There's nothing more lucrative in this world than farming in Kansas.
In Kansas, yeah. Okay. So
you got to be one of those lucky farmers, though, that just happens to farm something that the government, pays you a subsidy not to farm.
Oh,
you heard of these? Have you heard of this stuff?
Yeah,
I saw a comedian talking about that. It's like, so what do you do for a living? I'm a farmer. Oh yeah, what do you do? I don't farm corn. Get up every morning and I go out to the field and make sure there ain't no corn growing, and then I go back to bed.
Yeah, paid to not.
Crazy. Yeah.
Or, I mean, if you really want to, go ahead and grow it. Take the money for not growing it, and then sell what you grew. So you double.
That's what farmers markets are for.
You double up on it there.
Yep. Let's see. We're introduced for a moment to the high diving act that does make a return later in the story.
That was an interesting twist on that particular endeavor. Yeah.
Yeah. They dive into a large tank that has full of water with gasoline on the surface of the water that's on fire. And they do explain, the guy who runs the circus says that they fall into the water so quickly that the fire can't burn them. And it's like, okay, how do they get out? Does somebody quickly come over and snuff because they're not going to be able to stay underwater for that long.
They push the fire away from one little spot. They surface here.
They're just doing this, pushing the fire away up.
Yeah.
So, Clark is shaking the hand of Herculo and has to pretend like, because Herculo's obviously one of those guys that's going to show his strength by crushing your hand. And so Clark has to pretend that it hurt.
I think we've seen it now that it's going to be a common feature that the thought is in parentheses in a speech bubble.
Yep. Yeah, they obviously haven't at this point when it comes to lettering. Of course, I'm not reading any other Golden Age books. Do you notice that in the Batman books you're reading, or?
No, because honestly, it hasn't gotten to a point that there's a whole lot of inner dialogue, really. So there's no need to differentiate because there's only speech.
So typically what we see in these Superman books is that the parentheses within the word bubble. But because every once in a great while we'll see something slightly different, it's obvious that they haven't come up with that standard yet. They haven't picked this is how the reader knows that it's going to be their inner dialogue because of this. So see if there's anything else about this story I want to talk about.
I also want to know what that powder was that he put on the money.
Right? It covered that guy's hands in red dye.
Like, bright red, like blazing, full color red.
That I want to get some of that powder.
A small can from his pocket and sprinkle some powder over the building. So he was already carrying the canister of whatever it was.
Yeah, that's weird. I do like the contest between Herculo and Superman, where Superman's just doing that thing where he lets Herculo hit him, and then he makes some sassy remark to him, and then Herculo's big finishing move, when nothing else works, is to run at Superman and ram his head into Superman's chest, which obviously doesn't work. Knocks him right out.
He's done everything else, and it's like, well, let's see if it's like, dog, you're going to break your neck.
Superman then leaping over the elephants and doing somersaults over each one. That was kind of funny.
He becomes a circus act.
Yeah. Leaps up to the top of the tent and then spins like a top on his way down.
Yep. And the elephants, it's interesting because basically what he does is he climbs up. We see a row of elephants here in the panel, and he has climbed up or jumped up to the back of one, and then he just does somersaults and lands on the next one, and somersault and that's all. I mean, that's like any trapeze artist, any elephant. I mean, any number of people could do that. I guess it's impressive to look at, but it doesn't have anything to do with him being Superman.
Oh yeah. But during his big performance, that's when we get the reveal of the clown being the bad guy, and we learn that the clown used to be the strongman for the circus, and Jenkins replaced him with Herculo and said, "Well, you can be a clown. You know, you can't be the strongman anymore, but I'll let you be a clown." And so this clown, who's never given a name, he's just known as the clown. He decides to not only start robbing people in every town to make the circus look bad, he dresses up as Herculo to make Herculo look bad.
And I think the more that they draw him, the bigger he gets.
Yes. I was going to say the same thing.
So
the very few appearances we get of him before the reveal, not once did I go, whoa, he's a pretty big guy.
No. Yeah. But leading up to the reveal, and then it's like, oh, well, he is as big as Herculo. So
yeah,
didn't start out that way.
No, not at all. Yeah, I don't know that there's anything else I want to say. It was it was a fun Superman story. It's pretty straightforward, though. Kind of weird that Jack Burnley's the same guy that did the World's Fair issue, right? That we both thought was it was fun, but it was, Yep. So maybe they just saved him for the more not crazy stories,
Right? Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Because the next one we're going to talk about in the next episode is pretty fun and crazy.
Make note, the clown shoots Superman.
Yes.
Right? Just make a mental note that somebody shoots Superman in this story.
All right. And we get Herculo. He's the one that actually ends up taking out the clown. So
yep, after
it's like
being all butthurt that Superman beat him to begin with, because Herculo, his whole thing was that he was the alpha, as alpha as anybody around here, and Lois said no, and then Superman comes in and proves, well, no. But yet I think that he must have been privy to portions of the conversation, and in my head canon, he is taking out the clown to save his own name.
Yeah. Yep.
So
what? Okay. One last thing is the name of the bandit. So a couple of times he's referred to as the Strongarm Bandit, but he's also referred to as leopard-skin bandit, because the little outfit he wears is leopard skin.
Yep, like Tarzan, the over the one shoulder, whatever that's called, like Tarzan wore in the movies.
Unitard, I think is what it's called. And there's even when the clown is shooting Superman says, "Bullets don't harm me, Mr. Clown," alias Mr. Leopard Skin.
There you go.
It's like, come on, that's the best you can do, Mr. Leopard Skin.
Hey, it is 1940, so it's
Herculo's a good name, I guess, but
you kind of envision what type of character it's going to be just from that name.
Yeah. Now, I was, even though I kind of figured out it was the clown, there was a part of me that was really hoping that it would be Herculo, because he does seem to be, or at least the bandit seemed to be stronger than your average strongman. I mean, he throws that one guy across the room.
Yeah.
He rips the gear shift lever out of the car. And so I'm hoping, all right, we got a strong guy that's finally going to go up against Superman, a couple of powerhouses fighting. And no, that wasn't the case at all.
No, he didn't even come close to Superman. Didn't make him stumble, teeter, nothing. Yep. Superman was just a brick house.
Ooh, he's my tomate.
Yep, sorry.
You know what? It was just this year. I was just within the last 6 months, I found out that, and never realized that was, now I can't even think of the name of the group, but Lionel Richie's group, basically.
Yeah.
I just never would have guessed that Lionel Richie would have been on a song, Brick House.
Yep.
Good song, though. All right. Anything else you want to say about this?
No, sir.
This issue. All right. So then we'll just close it out, folks. That was Action Comics number 28. So until next week, I'm Steven, and that's Ed. And this was the Superman Super Show. Bye.
Ciao, Bella.
You've been listening to the Superman Super Show. Questions and comments can be directed to the Superman Super Show at gmail.com. You can follow the show on Twitter under the handle @SoupsSuperShow. That's @SUPS Super Show. And continue the conversation at the Super Show Forum at forums.justanotherfanboy.com. We also encourage you to rate the show wherever available and share this podcast with a friend. All links will be in the show notes.
Superman is a copyrighted feature appearing in Action Comics magazine.